Come on in, pull up a chair, and take a load off, because today I'll be reviewing and paging through Dungeons & Dragons, Tasha's Cauldron of Everything from Wizards of the Coast. So is this tome filled with optional D&D rules a great option for you to pick up? Or should we slam the lid down on this cauldron and get as far away from this homebrew as we can? We're going to find out right after this. Howdy, 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 gang. Yes, welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, the Grand Poobah of thegaminggang.com, as well as your host here at the Gaming Gang channel. As I mentioned in the open, I am going to be reviewing Tasha's Cauldron of Everything in just a moment. But first, I do want to remind you, if you end up liking this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already, and if you do subscribe, ding that bell, because not only will it let you know when I upload videos such as this, it'll also inform you when my live stream, The Daily Dope, airs Monday through Thursday nights right here on YouTube as I bring you the latest in tabletop gaming news. And stay tuned, because I will also share how you can win. I almost had this upside down. My alternate art cover edition of Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. And it's not too hard to get into the running, so don't miss out on that. All right, we are going to be diving on into Dungeons & Dragons, Tasha's Cauldron of Everything from Wizards of the Coast. Do want to mention, I am recording this review the day before it comes out in most areas of North America. So this does release on November 17th in North America. I have heard some places are going to experience a bit of a delay. They won't see it until November 22nd. Then again, I also hear stores up in Canada have already been selling this, and folks in Europe should see this on December 1st. So all in all, I can't tell you exactly when you might see this book in your area, but it will be soon. This hardcover does clock in at 192 pages and carries an MSRP of $49.95. So do want to point out that the fine folks over at Wizards of the Coast did provide this book for review. I know some people don't understand how that works. How did you get that book, Jeff? I am a reviewer. Wizards of the Coast sent it to me. That said, no one affiliated with the Gaming Gang, nor I, have received any other compensation from Wizards of the Coast or anyone else for me to share my thoughts. It's important for you to know that before we jump on in. And speaking of jumping on in, let's pop on over, because here we have the book. Now, I did a pretty full-length first look and page through video already for this. So we're kind of zip through this relatively quickly as I talk about things that I like about it, some things that I might have been a little disappointed by. But one of the aspects I do want to mention is just about all this information in this book has already been available through Unearthed Arcana. That might come as a surprise for some people, but it is the case. So although I got to admit, I'm sure this is the vast majority of this book is going to come in as something new to most gamers out there. I don't think there are a ton of D&D players who are constantly looking through the Unearthed Arcana. So the first chapter is going to deal with character options. This is something that I think a lot of people are really, really pumped about. I would say this is probably the aspect of this book that people are looking most forward to. I will mention, because I think some people missed this in my first look video, I am going to leave my hand over some areas of the pages here because I don't want pirates utilizing screenshots from this book. And I know you're sitting there going, Jeff, what? Really? Who in their right mind would sit there and screenshot every single page? I know. I wouldn't think it, but unfortunately, that's exactly what happened when I did my first look at Rime of the Frost Maiden. So I will leave my hand on certain pages, not all of them, not every time, but just to, kind of throw a wrench in anyone's plans to try to pirate the book through this video. All right, so probably the most anticipated character class in this book, which actually originally appeared, if memory serves me correctly, I think the first time we got the Artificer class was in the Eberron book. But I know a lot of people were kind of disappointed by that. And if off the top of my head, I think I recall there were about 5 pages devoted to, maybe three to 5 pages devoted to the Artificer. And people thought it kind of got the short end of the stick. So you will see, in fact, I believe that artwork is from Eberron. You're going to see that we've got much more page real estate devoted to the Artificer and the various different kinds of artificers. So I thought this was pretty cool. I love this artwork here. I definitely dig that. The infusions, because the Artificer can infuse items with magic. And depending on their level, it will determine how big or complex that object or mechanism will be that they can infuse with magic. And of course, they do get to utilize some spells as well. So all of the character classes are going to receive some additional features and subclasses throughout the book. Some are only a few pages, maybe 1 or 2. Well, I shouldn't say 1, 2, maybe 3. Some are a bit longer. So for an example here, see the Barbarian is 3 pages. We got the Bard. The Bard's a little longer. We get to the Cleric. And I know I have asked people to share what they're most looking forward to about this book in the comment section for the first look video. And it's a wide variety of different player character classes. And I thought that was very cool to see how many people out there are pumped about the new Cleric info, or they're pumped about the Monk, because I think a lot of people think the Monk is an underpowered character compared to everybody else, which there are some pretty cool new subclasses for the Monk. I like what they've done with the Fighter. We have different kind of martial classes to them. We'll get to that in a second. Here we go. The Battle Master builds is what I meant to say. So I do think that's kind of cool. Hoplite, Lancer, Pugilist, Skirmisher. Here's the Monk. So I know one viewer said they were really, really excited about the Way of Mercy because they wanted to kind of play a Plague Doctor Monk. I was like, wow, that is pretty cool. So as we're just flipping on through here, as I mentioned, the most page real estate is devoted to these character class optional rules. Once again, everything in this book is optional. You do not necessarily have to use any of this. I got to be honest, I can't imagine a game master or players using everything that's in this book. But you know what? I bet you there's some people out there. All right, so we get some Beastmaster companions, which I thought was pretty cool for the Druid. I thought that was pretty nice. Wait a second, was it the Druid? No, the Ranger. What am I thinking? The Druid. Dummy Jeff. The Rogue gets some cool stuff. The Phantom. Sorcerer. We have some new spells as well. We've got some new magic items. We've got magic tattoos, which are very interesting, which we will get to in just a little bit. We've got the Genie. You could actually play as a genie. No, I'm kidding. These are the patrons. Because there is a section coming up that's going to talk about patrons, which I was really looking forward to checking out. I gotta admit, I don't want to say I'm disappointed. I would have liked to have seen. Here we go. Here's the group patrons. This is chapter 2. This is actually a pretty short chapter. As I have a ladybug climb up on the book. And of course, this is November 16th. It actually has been unseasonably warm in the Chicago area, but it has gotten colder. So I guess we'll just let that ladybug do its thing. All right, hold on. Now, I don't want to get you squished between pages. Let's go. Come here. I know, I'm goofy. Come on, climb on this so I can get you off of there. Come on. There we go. All right, so the ladybug did not land on me, so that was not good luck. But just don't want to end up, squishing the ladybug between the pages of that. So we have group patrons. So we have patrons. This was also something that was in the Eberron book, but we have some different patrons. So it's essentially for your group, not your individuals per se, but for the group. And we have like military forces, ancient being. I think it's kind of interesting because when I think of a patron, I think of, say, Ariok and Elric of Melna Bane. I think of Shilba and, is it Mingnable? I'm trying to remember. Or Ningbable of the Many Eyes or whatever. Fafr and the Grey Mouser. They're patrons. So I kind of like the ancient being patron here. But we've got aristocrats. I know that we had news organizations and things like that in the Eberron book as well. So we've got criminal syndicate. Of course, guilds, obviously enough. The artwork throughout the book is pretty nice. I thought this was a little weak. I was like, it's just a very kind of flat, very not a very crisp image here. So I don't know if it's the actual artwork or just if it's the reproduction of the artwork. It just looks very blurred. And yes, I understand that this is moving in that, but it's supposed to be moving. All right, so just going through here. And the various different patrons, plus being your own patron as well. All in all, an interesting chapter, but I would have liked to have seen a bit more detail as opposed to, oh, well, here's the D6 for quests. Here's the D6 for the type of patron they are. I don't know. It didn't knock me out. I like the group patron aspect, and it plays a big role in games like, say, Dungeon Crawl Classics. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why we're starting to see the patrons being involved as well. So then we get into magical miscellany. So we've got 21 new spells, pretty interesting spells. I like this artwork of Tasha here. And we've got some new magical items. We're going to have the magical tattoos, which are pretty cool. Although I got to be honest, I'm very surprised the way that they actually included them in the listings, and I'll show you in a second. So we've got these different spells here as well. We get a section about personalizing spells, and I would have liked to have seen a bit more detail with this as well. It's a few paragraphs, essentially. But Dungeon Crawl Classics, and I found out that Savage Worlds, as far as they're kind of like fantasy setting, has the personalized spells. So as an example, your fireball might have a different requirement for you to cast it. You may have to speak power words. Somebody else's fireball, they might have to utilize, hand movements. Somebody else's fireball might need special ingredients or a combination of all three and might look completely different. Maybe your fireball is green. Someone else's could be blue. That's kind of the personalization of the spell, so that every spell doesn't look or act exactly the same. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more information about this. Start getting into some of the magic items. Talking about the magic tattoos. Here we go. The more powerful the magic tattoo, the bigger the tattoo is probably going to be. Strangely enough, I get it, it's a magic item, but I would have thought they would have taken the magic tattoos and just put them in their own section, as opposed to being mixed throughout the rest of these magic items. Which I will say, these magic items are pretty interesting. They're pretty unique. It's not just, it's a +1 against this and a +2 against this. There's actually some thought that's gone into a lot of these magic items. The tattoos are pretty cool too, as you look through these. All right, our final chapter is going to be Dungeon Master's Tools. And the reality is, I think a lot of this, not as exciting as I would have liked it to have seen. So, talk about a session 0. Yes, I think most people understand how that works. Some of this stuff is just common sense. Some of it is a little hand-wringy too, where it's like, the social contract and having hard and soft limits around your game table. I think most people understand that. I don't know. I mean, to me, I find it very strange when it has to be spelled out in a game to not be a moron, not to make other players around the table feel uncomfortable. Don't tackle topics that you wouldn't discuss, But I don't know. I guess there are some players out there that do need, and game masters, don't get me wrong, who need to be sat down and had this stuff explained to. There's a bit of information about running a game just for one player, one-on-one, which brings us to a section about sidekicks. I love the sidekicks. This is probably my favorite part of the DM tools over here. I think the sidekicks are very interesting, very cool. They're not like hirelings. They're not like followers. And I would think if you're running a game with 3 or fewer, maybe even 4 or fewer players, tossing a sidekick or 2 in should be kind of cool. When I'm running like old school fantasy role-playing games where you really do need to have like hirelings, followers, things like that. Otherwise, number 1, you're not going to survive. And number 2, you're not going to get all the treasure out of that dungeon. I try to make sure that they have personality and they stand out, that they're not just, this is NPC 3. Oh, it's Bob, the NPC. So I do definitely like that. Gosh, I skipped past. Okay. Parlaying with monsters. This was a disappointment. It's a huge disappointment, in my opinion, simply because, once again, I just mentioned I'm kind of an old school sort of role player and game master. I love parlaying with creatures and monsters. It doesn't always have to come down to stab it, kill it. And obviously enough, you can earn experience for basically making it past an encounter or a situation that you didn't have to resort to violence. The parlaying with monsters section here is essentially just rolling a d4, and it tells you what kind of stuff you might be able to bribe the creature with. To me, that's not parlaying, that's bribing. So I mean, this isn't bad. I thought this was kind of interesting, but to me, it's just not. It's not parlaying with monsters. Then we get into some environmental hazards. We get into these different realms and regions. I thought this is also very interesting, but mainly just boils down to a percentile die roll. I would have liked to have seen more involved in this as opposed to just tables. Although I do like where it's like, say, for an example, haunted environs. Pretty interesting. We've got infested. We've got a mirror zone, psychic resonance. We've got the mimic colonies. Funny enough, somebody on the other video had commented that in their game, their party was actually able to convince a mimic to join their party. I was like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. So we get all these various different areas. Like I said, interesting. I would have liked a little bit more than just some random tables for just random effects. Then we're going to finish up with puzzles. And this is another section that was really kind of touted by Wizards of the Coast for this book. Just like parlaying with monsters was something that was touted that was going to be in this book. And it's essentially 2 pages, and it's almost all just random tables. Same thing with puzzles. And really, we get a page talking about puzzles, and then we get some example puzzles. Now, the example puzzles are kind of cool for the most part. I'm not big on hint checks and things like that. Not to say that I want my players around the table to be sitting there for hours trying to figure something out. But I'm not a fan of just rolling a die and just, okay. So for an example, I talked about this in my first look video. If you're having a conversation and you're trying to influence somebody, or you're trying to intimidate them in some way, or you're trying to charm them, I'm a firm believer the player has to say what they're doing. I'm not saying that you have to role play everything out. I'm just saying, give me an idea of what's going on. I would do the same thing with these hint checks. I wouldn't just let somebody say, okay, well, I'm going to roll against my charisma for a hint. Okay, why would you be doing that? But all in all, I thought that we were going to see more page space devoted to how to create good puzzles, how to utilize good puzzles in an adventure. We don't really get that. We just get some examples that you can use of various different puzzles. Like I said, the puzzles are pretty interesting. I just would have liked to have seen a bit more devoted to the concept of creating these puzzles. I am a big fan of interactivity in my role-playing games as well, especially fantasy role-playing games, especially when you're doing dungeon crawls, things like that. Then we get some puzzle handouts, and that will finish up the book. So there you have Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Let's swing on over to the other camera. I am going to finish up with some final thoughts and my review score. So I have to point out that this is kind of an odd review. And the reason behind that is what this book means to me is going to be different than what it means to you as a potential buyer. Great example. I've had people on the first look video commenting what they're really looking forward to the most about this book. And it's everything. It's everything. So as an example, if you're a dungeon master and you've got enough character creation options in your opinion, this book may not be as valuable to you as a group that's always looking to have the most options available to their players as far as creating characters. if you don't care about like the artificer and new magic items and things like that, this book may not hold that much value for you. Other gamers are going to be like, wow, everything that's in this book looks fantastic. So when I give this a review score, I'm sure some people out there will think, oh, my gosh, Jeff, that's way too high. Well, other people are going to say, how come you didn't give it a perfect 10? Like I said, makes this a bit of an odd review. All in all, I think this is a really cool book. I think there's a lot of good stuff in here. Just because I was talking about, well, I was kind of disappointed with parlaying with monsters. I was hoping we'd get a little more info about creating puzzles as opposed to here are some puzzles. Doesn't mean that I dislike this book. I like this book a lot. That said, I am a little surprised it's $49.95, so effectively $50, and it clocks in at 192 pages. This is one of the shorter books at this price point from Wizards of the Coast. I would have liked to have seen a bit more in here. Also, got to keep in mind, this information has been available in some way as far as the Unearthed Arcana. So it's not as if all this is going to be new. It's just going to be new to a lot of people out there. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I do actually give Tasha's Cauldron of Everything a 9 out of 10. I think it's going to be of value to a lot of gamers out there. Some people, on the other hand, and there's no problem with this. They're right. You know, if they say, oh, it's a 4 out of 10, for them, it's a 4 out of 10. For some people, it might be a 10 out of 10. I do give it a 9 out of 10. I think it's really good. I think it's worth picking up as well. Wish the price point was a little bit lower. I wish there was more devoted to parlaying with monsters as opposed to just, here's roll a die 4, and that's kind of what they like to be bribed with. And I wish we had more as far as creating your own puzzles to include in your own adventures. So there's that. The rest of it, really I think the player character options are very cool. And I think people should be pleased. Of course, it is Dungeons and Dragons. There's always going to be people out there who are going to be like, oh, I hate that. Oh, I hate that. All right. So as I mentioned, I am going to give you the chance to win my copy of the alternate art cover of Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Pretty simple. You can have 2 opportunities to win. You get 2 chances. So if you went and you checked out my first look video where I paged through, if you comment on that video what you are looking most forward to for the book and be a subscriber of the Gaming Gang channel, bang, you're in the running. For this video, same exact thing. All you got to do is make sure you're a subscriber to the Gaming Gang channel and let me know what you're looking most forward to from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. And you're in the running. Comments that say, Jeff, you're a moron, don't count. Sorry. I'm not telling you any comment. I'm saying you have to let me know what you're looking for most. Looking forward to most, I should say, in the book. All right. That is it for this time out. Once again, let me remind you, give the video a quick thumbs up if you like it. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't, and ding that bell if you do subscribe, so you can find out not only when I upload videos such as this, but also when my live stream, The Daily Dope, airs Monday through Thursdays right here on YouTube. And of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. All right, as I tend to wrap up all my videos right now during this never-ending and worsening pandemic, I really do hope all of you out there are being smart and staying safe. Oh, you're still here. Well, once again, thank you very much for watching this video. And of course, if you'd like to subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel, click right here. And of course, if you want to see one of the latest episodes of the Daily Dope, click right on up here. And if you want to roll the dice, take your chances, see what YouTube thinks you might like from the channel, give a click right here. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer, and I'll see you next time.